Hi, I'm Sarah Djamshidi, President of SpeedShift Ventures. Welcome to another episode of CEO Circle. Our goal is to have honest conversation with people who've been there, done that. And our goal is to help you grow your business and in the process inspire you to do great things. With me today, I have Mahi Reddy. Welcome.
Hi.
Mahi is a serial entrepreneur and CEO of SemaConnect. And SemaConnect is an innovative company in the Mid-Atlantic area that is focused on producing electric car charging stations and sophisticated software for electric cars.
Right.
So again, welcome. Now, let's just start, Mahi, by about SemaConnect. How did you come up with the idea? What made you even focus on this market? And how did SemaConnect come to be?
Yeah, I think it goes back to when you start when you want to start a company, when you want to do something, you have to be driven by some passion, right? And in my case, in my previous business, I was in healthcare IT. As I moved on from there in 2008, I said, I really need to be in the clean tech business. I want to make a difference here, right?
Right.
So that's where it started. But then, you start with an intention, but then how do you translate that into a concrete business opportunity, right?
Right.
And just coincidentally, I happen to be a member of the Electric Vehicle Association of Washington,
That was just
DC.
a hobby?
Yeah, it was back in 2004. One day the idea just popped into my head that I wanted to buy an electric car. So they weren't available back then. So
you decided to just make one.
So I joined the club. So I joined this club, right?
Right.
And so then I sought some advice. I said, guys, how do I? And they're a really nice set of people that are really dedicated to electric cars and very, very fanatic about that. So I said, guys, how do I get an electric car? And they said, well, Mahi, you have to set aside about maybe 20 or 30 weekends.
Oh, wow.
Buy an old car like a Volkswagen or something, rip out the engine, put in a motor, put in batteries, and you'll get an electric car. And I said, look, I don't have the time.
That's a very dedicated hobby.
I don't have the time, I don't have the inclination, and that's not something I would do. I want something that is, completely crash tested. It should be in a dealer showroom, and only effort I'm going to put in is, where do I sign, right?
Right.
So really at that point, I didn't, I wasn't going to build one.
Right.
So I just kind of stayed involved with the club, and then when I moved on from CBA, which was in 2008, and was thinking, well, I want to be in clean tech, and that's when I noticed some of these automobile manufacturers announcing or getting serious about introducing electric cars.
Right.
And then it struck me, if these cars were going to hit the road, right? They need a completely different infrastructure.
That is true.
Right? They need a fueling infrastructure. You don't kind
of think about that first, but now.
And you look at it. It's kind of, with gasoline too, the gasoline infrastructure is invisible. But truly the fact is, with our cars, there is a vast, from the oil well to the refinery to getting it to
the gas station. Right.
That is a huge infrastructure, right? So I said, well, you need an infrastructure to get the electricity into the car. Luckily with electricity, we have the generation, we've got the distribution, but what we don't have is the last mile.
That is true.
Which is, how do you get it into the car, right? And I said, look, that is a fantastic problem. That is something that I'd love to solve.
It's a big problem.
It's a big problem, but it's something that was right up my alley in terms of skill set. So I said, you know what, I'm going to get into this. So we just jumped in, and this is well before the cars were on the streets, right?
That's quite visionary. Just
it is.
Anticipate a problem and then the solution, and then go build a company around it.
Absolutely.
Because you could have just been driving around with your own makeshift electric car, by now.
Right. So I started I started SemaConnect.
Right.
We started building some technology, stayed very much under the radar because the cars weren't on the streets, right?
Right.
And so then we timed it just about the time that the cars were hitting the streets.
Sure.
GM was actually putting the Volt in dealer showrooms.
Right.
That's when we also went public in the sense of, we came out into the open, talked
Right.
about it, got some initial orders, and we're off
That's
to the
fantastic.
races. Yeah,
That's fantastic.
Yeah, we and so
You
I
got the
created-
market validation there.
Absolutely.
When the cars were coming on
so
the
the
road.
technology that we developed,
Right.
I created a complete team to do the technology.
Right.
And so it's a very engineering focused team. We built the technology, and a product like this has to go through UL certification.
Sure.
I mean, you're talking about high voltages that are running through this system, right?
Right.
So that means you have to have it go through a very rigorous certification process. And we took it through that successfully, and I'm really proud of my team.
Right.
And the fact that they just managed to do it with flying colors.
That's amazing.
So we then had a product that we could sell. Now it's a question of, hey, how do you build, a sales machine that can really go out and start selling this system?
Let's talk about the product itself and what SemaConnect is bringing to market. Let's talk about that for a second.
Okay.
And so, what is it? What does it kind of look like? Can you just describe the product or service that you're providing?
Sure. So let's see let's see what the problem that we're trying to solve is, right? Electricity is piped to your home, right? And so
True.
you've got an electric meter. It's pretty easy to keep track of how much electricity you
Exactly.
use and be able to bill you for it, right?
Right.
But if your car ran on electricity, now your car is moving from place to place. It's
Right.
plugging in at different places, right? How do we keep track? I mean, how do we give these different places the ability for you to plug in, get some electricity, and be able to pay for that electricity?
Exactly right.
So
Right.
that's the critical issue. So it's access control and it's a revenue model.
Well, that actually
so that's
is true.
the problem that we wanted to solve.
Right.
And the way we solved it is we built these charging stations that have a lot of safety features built in, right? Sophisticated ground fault.
Yeah, because these things have to be
system.
outside. It's raining,
Yeah,
snowing.
absolutely. So we did
in the
that.
elements, right?
We did that. Plus, these are all equipped with, they're all microprocessor based, and so they've got capabilities like being able to read smart cards. So that's how you get access control. They have energy metering. Then they've got the ability to do encrypted communication with a server and so on. So really, so we built a lot of information technology into this system, and these stations are constantly communicating with a back-end database, and they perform the authentication, the electronic payment, and all of those capabilities.
Oh, that's fantastic. So now, but SemaConnect is not your first
Right.
entrepreneurial endeavor. You've done this many, many times. In fact, you've done this 5 times. And one of the companies that you co-founded, Seabase Systems, went public 2 years ago,
Right.
about 2 years ago. And so you've done this many times, finding, essentially starting companies, growing companies, exiting companies, and then going back and doing that again. And now
Right.
you're doing that with SemaConnect, and SemaConnect is thriving and doing great.
Right.
And so what keeps you, what motivates you to do that, to build companies, grow companies, start them in the first place? Do you have some sort of a mantra that you go by, what keeps you doing these?
I think at the bottom of this, it's everybody has a particular activity and something that really ignites their passion, right? I mean, something that they find really interesting. I love the problem. I mean, so if you were a doctor, for instance, I mean, you would love a challenging surgical procedure.
Sure.
That might be something that really
The challenge
the challenge really brings out the best in you, right?
Exactly.
So
right.
for me, the challenge of creating a company, right? Of taking an idea, building a team, creating a company, and putting it out in the marketplace and having it be a successful product or a service, I think that's something that I'm really passionate about. I mean, I love that process.
Right.
Now, would I enjoy running a large company? No.
Right.
I mean, that's not my skill set. That's not something
Yeah,
that
I mean,
would do.
everybody has.
Yeah, my skill set and my capabilities
Is
are
launching,
really
growing.
Yeah, it's just defining a product, building, identifying and building the team, recruiting the team, creating a company culture,
Right.
and really just creating a company and getting it, moving along in terms of momentum into a profitable company. I think that's something that I love to do, and it doesn't feel like you're going to work every day if you.
That's great.
Like this, yeah.
Well, a lot of people find those initial steps very difficult. So it's great that basically gets you out of bed every day, and that's basically what you love doing.
Right.
One of the things that you touched upon was the importance of teams, and there are. There's a great body of research on human dynamics and human capital, and how do you capture it, how do you motivate, how do you retain.
Right.
So there's a lot of research, but on the tactical level, in terms of doing this, you've done this many times, and you have started great companies and clearly have put great teams in place. So how do you go about those early on days, or even later, as you go through different phases of the company? How do you find that great talent? How do you recruit, retain, and then motivate so that they are producing and towards a great company? So how do you do that?
In terms of finding talent, I think that if you are passionate about a product or a technology, that you can actually find people that, for instance, if it's robotics or if it is, in this case, charging stations, you can actually find people if you have the patience and if you talk to a lot of people, right? But once you find them and you're able to recruit them and you're able to share your vision and bring them on the team, I'm a strong believer in empowerment, right? So I like to keep things as hierarchy free. I like to keep things as bureaucracy free. Just give people the freedom. My sense is people don't work merely for the money, right? I think money is a motivator, but that's not the sole motivator, right?
Sure.
So it is that, look, we spend 8 hours of our day, at work. So it's got to be a place where you enjoy. And in a startup
environment, sometimes even more.
Absolutely. So you've got to enjoy coming to work.
Yes.
You've got to have a set of colleagues that you really gel with. So that's the thing. Create a nice culture. A can-do culture that's I think that is a powerful motivator. And then just stay out of the way, in the sense of don't do anything that will retard the progress of your team, right?
Right. As an entrepreneur and a CEO,
enable them to be the the best that they can be. So that's it.
That's great. No, that's great. It's harder in actual to do it, but that's terrific. It's having an eye on that and putting the pieces together in the puzzle.
Right.
I think that's a great thing to do. So now talking about the other aspect of it, of starting a company, growing and running it, and talking about the whole process of being the CEO and going through the different phases, early phases of even starting a company and growing it and raising the capital and all that. How do you stay focused? Because one of the key things is, as you are in the early stages of the business, there are so many priorities. You're trying to bring a product to market. You're keeping an eye on the competition. You're trying to bring it to market. You have money that you need to raise in order to finish the product. Sometimes, not all the times. So you're trying to raise capital. You're trying to put the team together. You're trying to set the operation so this business can hum at some point. So there are so many things that you need to be doing, and we have you have limited amount of time. Time is finite. So how do you keep that A game? How do you stay focused? Are there any what do you do?
Yeah, I think one of the key things, as when you come into work, there will be 100 demands, just in terms of time, money, resources. So really, the question you have to ask consciously is, will this contribute to the eventual goal of making this a profitable company, right? Of making this a self-sustaining company. And if it doesn't, you don't do that. So you always have to have that.
Keep your eye on the ball.
Just keep your eye on, and you have to have that radar where you've got your eyes on the target, and everything that you do has to be focused toward that, right? And often it's when you're trying to run a company, either you or the people sometimes the people in your team, you can kind of just get a little defocused or start running
It's
down a
easy
rabbit
to do
hole.
that, especially at the early
running
stage.
down a rabbit hole, or
Right.
just pursuing something else that
Right.
doesn't really help. So you have to take a step back and say, look, is this going to add value to the eventual goal?
Right.
Is this going to get us one step closer, right?
Right.
And if it doesn't, then don't do it.
Right.
And if it does, then that's, you need to be doing
And I think
it.
that just keep asking
every
yourself.
single day.
Yeah, and so that's really great. Now, talking about from a CEO's perspective, as a former entrepreneur, I also know this too. There are times that it's a lonely journey in some ways, and other people have said that. Don't know if you feel that way or not, but there are limited places you can go. People expect you to have the answers, whether they're investors or your employees or even the market sometimes. So you're expected to have all the answers. But we know that's a very difficult thing, and nobody has all the answers.
Right.
And so and so basically, what are some of the things you've been doing in the past that kind of helps you with that process of in terms of trying to grow the company and cope with that aspect of it?
Right.
I say, just to use a sports analogy, you use a medicine analogy, but just to sports, even Olympic athletes or have coaches. Tiger
Right.
Woods has
Right.
coaches. And so there's always a mechanism or a way to better your game,
Right.
no matter how good you are.
Right.
So what do you do?
Yeah, I think if you're using sports analogies, golf is probably golf or boxing. I mean, those aren't the appropriate
No, right.
analogies. I mean, really, and the reason I say this is, this is a team sport,
Right.
So it's like
Like
if
a
you have a
football or a
team,
basketball,
or
right?
a soccer team, right?
Right.
And if you and because you've got a team, which means it's not
Right.
just you. It is you have people surrounding you that are equally dedicated and that are equally focused and want, they share the same vision.
So you're like
right?
a captain of
So you really have to
quarterback
think of
of a football team,
almost as an equal, but
Right.
as the captain of this team, right?
Sure.
And you have to try to bring out the best in other people in your team,
Sure.
and in return, your team too will influence how you work and your motivation level. So I think
Right.
that's very critical. The second thing is obviously, I think it's, if you're an entrepreneur, again, sometimes you just feel, hey, you're all alone out there battling it out. But the thing is, there are other entrepreneurs, and
Right.
it's, I think the value of networking is very useful. I mean, not just random networking, but really trying to meet other entrepreneurs, and then, share a drink with them,
Yeah.
you can chat with them and
You
so
don't
that
have
way,
to be lonely.
Yeah, you don't have to be lonely.
Or alone, I
think,
should say.
Yeah, so I mean, these are some of the things that work for me.
Yeah, no, that's great.
So yeah.
Yeah, and so what would you say is the single most important thing you've learned along the process? It doesn't have to be a single most thing, but what is it, like a takeaway from all these companies that you started, both in the highs and the lows? What have you come up with that, a lesson learned, or if you were to tell folks who are starting businesses who are in the process of growing their businesses and they're through different stages, what would you say?
Right.
What would you,
Yeah, a few principles. I mean, when you think about a business or starting a business, it looks huge and it looks like an impossible pinnacle to scale, right?
Right.
But really, it's not that. I mean, it is, if you follow, a few core principles,
Sure.
It really is quite easy. It's not that difficult, right? I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's not that difficult.
Well, no, I mean,
right?
if it was easy, everybody would do it.
Right? Absolutely. So some of the things that you really need to focus on are, first, that it's not just about you. So you have to focus on building a good team. Two, focus on never ill-treat people, right? Now, you will encounter a lot of people that may live up to your expectations, may not live up to your expectations, whether it's, employees, whether it's vendors, whether it's customers. But at all points, it's very important that you just treat people well. I think that establishes for you, and that establishes that you are a person of integrity, right? That is very important. The third is, it's about the details. I mean, when you are building a company, right? at every step of the way, you have to, listen closely to customers. You have to be focused on building a product that, customers really want. I mean, solving a real problem, not building a feature set that, the geek in you wants to build, but really trying to build a feature that a customer wants and appreciates and is willing to pay for.
Right. No, I think that's great. Now, just to wrap up, anything else you'd like to add, or? I think
I think I'm really blessed, and that this is something that I like to do. This is something that I'm good at, and this is something that I'm comfortable doing. And I'm really blessed that I've had this opportunity to do this, to be able to start companies. And as challenging as it is, I look back on pride. I look back with pride on every one of my achievements. Right? Companies that I've started have sometimes succeeded and have sometimes failed, but even the ones that have failed can teach you immense amounts.
Actually, I think you learn more.
In fact, you learn more.
You're right.
Because, when you succeed, it might just also be a fluke. I mean, you might have succeeded because of dumb luck. You never know, right? So, so it's, I think, entrepreneurship is all about experimentation. The nice thing about entrepreneurship is that every day there is a new challenge. You wake up in the morning and you've got a new challenge, and you've got to solve that particular problem. So it's one of experimenting, it's one of learning, and it's one of scaling new heights. And that's what I love about being an entrepreneur.
That's terrific.
No 2 days are the same.
I know, that's terrific. Mahi, thank you so much for being here, and we really appreciate your advice, and I'm sure a lot of people will enjoy.
It's a pleasure, Sarah, and I'd be happy to do this, and I'm really pleased to help spread the word and inspire more entrepreneurs. And you're doing a great job in terms of getting the word out.
Thank you. I appreciate it.